Good evening. I now call to order this public forum. Dr. Les Geis, president of Louisiana Tech University, announced his retirement in August, effective December 31st. We certainly appreciate Dr. Geis's service to Louisiana Tech, Ruston, and the state of Louisiana. He has been a leader in education for many years and a fan favorite during Bulldog and Lady Texter games. We thank Dr. Geis for his service. Subsequent to Dr. Geis's announcement, Dr. James B. Henderson announced his interest in the presidency of Louisiana Tech University. Our board rules and bylaws never contemplated a system president being a candidate for presidency of one of our universities. Those bylaws and rules therefore do not provide for a procedure or a practical path forward that includes Dr. Henderson in our traditional search process. For that reason, the Board of Supervisors, at a special call meeting on October 9th, 2023, voted to suspend Board Rule Part 2, Chapter 3, Faculty and Staff, Section 2, Personnel Action, and invite Dr. Henderson to interview for the position. In order to hear Dr. Henderson's vision for the university and to receive feedback from the public, we scheduled this public forum, which I now call to order. As a courtesy to all, I ask that you please turn off your electronic devices. Ms. Carroll, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Busada, Dr. Clark.
Here.
Dr. Condos,
Here.
Mr. Davison,
Here.
Ms. Donahoe,
Present.
Ms. Leatherman,
Present.
Mr. Perkins,
Here.
Mr. Peterson, Ms. Pierre,
Here.
Mr. Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Romero, Ms. Russell, Mr. Salter, Mr. Stevens,
Here.
Ms. Stokes, Ms. Willis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. At this time, I will ask Board Member Lola Donahoe to please lead us in invocation.
Heavenly Father, thank you for all the opportunities you give us to serve you and one another. Help us in our deliberations tonight, that we would be forthcoming and make sure that we do the business of the state and the students and the university as we serve you and serve us. Thank you for the blessings that you've given us and guide us in all that we do. For Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Supervisor Donahoe. This evening's public forum will proceed as follows. Dr. Jim Henderson will provide an opening statement, and then those in the audience are invited to participate in the public forum. Those who wish to ask a question can submit their question to UL system staff using the interview question card. Those who wish to make a public comment can submit a comment card to the UL system staff and will be called upon at the appropriate time. Those comment cards and question cards are located in the back on the table. We will entertain as many public questions and comments as time allows. Following the public comments and questions, the board will proceed with its interview process. I would now like to invite Dr. Henderson to give his statement.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for your time and thank you for your diligence during this very unusual circumstance. And I appreciate the time and energy that you put forth here. Last Thursday, John and I went to Ruston. We had conversations with student leaders from faculty and leaders of campus ministry, and then held an open forum on campus. And part of this process, that might give them the opportunity to weigh in. And it was a robust hour and a half open forum that we were first of the board to engage in that kind of thoughtful discourse and thoughtful people. I believe that was well received by kids. I made my wife find it the role of the spouse of the president so important. And I wanted to, for the third time, introduce her to this forum and allow her to say about the first
first introduced to the concept of Mr. Very proud of his honor. I remember putting several minutes throughout the year. Before I set the table, I have to make sure that the lady set was not on TV. If they were, I have to pull out the TV. It's not in the. Now as I'm not, I can see firsthand everything that's going on. Because it's in the power of my baby. It's a sophomore. Yeah, we got to do that. We got to anyway. The film first making the difference in the work for all of you. Fabulous staff, who are some of the best higher education leaders in the nation, and all the universities in this system. I thought back to the days of my interacting with students without the and all that is one that Thursday. There were a couple of things but he had so much fun engaging with the students. He's the most passionate person in the world. He knows how to work for it, and he gets to make it. When it comes to being the life of a person, he's doing it that is perfect. When we got to Northwestern, I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I didn't expect in terms of the action. But presentations sort of this stuff, they asked them, I didn't expect to put the number over my band. All 350 members of them, no master students. I accepted, I did it, and I enjoyed it. I think the thing that I learned, a big takeaway from my years there at Northwestern is to expect the unexpected and to serve where we're needed to serve as spouses of university presidents. I would support the students, the faculty, the staff, but most of all, I support this guy 100% in doing this. And I would be honored to serve as Louisiana Tech next first lady. Thank you.
Yeah. At the end of yesterday, we got to have gumbo with the engineering department, and I exposed a Gaydon girl to Rustin gumbo, and that was it was a lot of fun, a lot of good conversation. She is my partner. She has been. Folks, it was almost 7 years ago to the day that you hired me as the system president. I know Mr. Romero is probably on his way here. He's trapped on the Chapel Eye. Mr. Perkins was certainly part of that decision. And I think back to what we've done over 7 years as a system, where we actually built a system of 9 distinct universities, recognizing the legacy of each one, the specificity of each mission, the culture of each institution, the distinctiveness of each faculty. But we leveraged all that towards some collective outcomes, and those outcomes are measurable. If you look at the success and the respect we've built across the street at the state capitol, and how that's resulted in investments in infrastructure, investments in faculty, investments in our work, it's extraordinary. I look at the system initiatives that we put in place. The Compete Louisiana, it's a groundbreaking initiative to open doors and knock down barriers for the 653,000 Louisianans who have some college and no degree. I think about the Reginald F. Lewis Educational Opportunity Initiative and the Reginald F. Lewis Scholars, and how these now 54 young men have completely changed my life and my perception about the power of our work. I think about the work we're doing in core competencies and how that was developed by faculty, and how we're seeing now conversations around the nation about devaluing general education and broad liberal education, and yet we're going exactly the opposite way. We're investing in those skills that are going to prepare people not only for jobs of today, but careers for 10 years from now and 20 years from now, and to be contributing members of society. We're leading conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion unabashedly, because we understand that while some of us subscribe to it as a moral imperative, we also understand it's a business imperative. And any organization that's going to thrive in the global community is going to thrive because it understands the need to serve a broad constituency. But my love and my passion is really about working with faculty and students on a daily basis. And so it's always been my intent to one day return to a university and finish my career there. When President Geis first hinted to me that he was getting near the end of his tenure, Tanya and I started having some conversations. And then as Les started having conversations with his community, people started reaching out to me. And I thought about my 81-year familial history with Louisiana Tech. I thought about this institution, the level of scholarship that occurs, especially at the undergraduate level, has the shortest time to degree. It is truly an exemplary experience for students. I thought about the faculty and some of the faculty that I've gotten to work with, Jamie Newman, for one, whose display at the Louisiana Arts and Science Museum was up for a year. And I don't think I ever set foot in there where there weren't hundreds of people, at least during events, and tens of people during the regular day coming through to look at her work. That gives me energy. That gets my adrenaline going. And the ability, the opportunity to come and work with the faculty and staff at an institution, building on the foundation laid by President Geis, his predecessor, President Renault, and elevate that institution to its fullest potential. The impact that that can have on that I-20 corridor and my home of North Louisiana is such an intriguing prospect to me. To partner with my friend Ron Berry over in Monroe, with my friend Rick Gallo, who's currently in Lincoln Parish at Grambling. And I think about some of the work that's occurred at Grambling over the last 7 years. It's truly remarkable to work with my dear friend Marcus Jones at Alma Mater Northwestern State, and leveraging these institutions to drive economic growth in this region of the state that's so important to us. It's hard for me to contain my excitement as I think about that. And so for this board to do what it's done so far, to consider my candidacy, I'm deeply appreciative of it. I will tell you that I'm extraordinarily bullish on the future of Louisiana Tech. That institution is excellent. It will move to be even greater in its next era of excellence. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Henderson. So we'll move into the public forum part. I'll ask Ms. Carroll, are there any comments or questions that were submitted from the public? You can.
Thank you. I reached out to all the presidents in the UL system and let them know this was going on tonight, and to a person, they all wanted to be here. We have 3 of us in the audience. We have another stuck on over the Atchafalaya Basin, and some others are doing homecoming parades and have things they couldn't get out of, and they have a governor-elect on their campus. But it just shows the respect we have for Jim Henderson, the leadership skills, the compassion he has for us and our institutions, the passion. I cannot imagine a better leader for Louisiana Tech University at this point in history, when you have a new governor, you have a new Speaker of the House from up that way, and you have someone who calls himself politically celibate, but we all know he is very politically savvy and can take Louisiana Tech to the next level. So I would just wanted to come up as one of the presidents in the system and speak on behalf of my boss and my friend, Jim Henderson. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clune. That's it. Okay. At this point, if any of our board members have questions during this forum, we will take those now. If not, we will do a brief recess and move into our special meeting. Does anybody on the board have any questions they'd like to ask at this time? Mr. Davison.
Could you just talk about a couple of goals that you have for Louisiana Tech? Might be attainable over the next few years.
Thank you, Supervisor Davison. You know, I am one that believes wholeheartedly in the collaborative development of vision right? Especially when it comes to goals, because what that does, it gives every component part of the institution and every stakeholder in the institution ownership of those goals. But of course, I immediately start thinking about what are the audacious goals that we should put forth, and how should we start thinking about these kinds of things. And Tech has a robust research apparatus. They have faculty that are devoted to research, and certainly some disciplines where they have a true expertise. And so driving research at that institution where it will fall into a category to be considered for Carnegie R1 is certainly something I think we need to have that conversation with faculty. And if we're going to do that, ensure that we have a plan to get there and a resource base to get there. Part of the way that you develop that resource base is you have to grow. You have to grow in the enterprise campus. Today, they cut the ribbon on Tech Point 2, which is just a remarkable advance. And people haven't seen that on campus. Tech Point 1 has been very successful. My friend Davey Norris in Tech Point 2 is doing some extraordinary work. I think Tech Point 3 is already being considered, but driving that enterprise effort and ensuring that it's integrated with the broader academic mission of the university, I think is something that we can all get behind. Growing student enrollment. If Louisiana Tech has 15,000 students, academically prepared students, I think that's a healthy enrollment level for them to attain to. But it's got to drive some graduate enrollment. One of the things they look at with Carnegie R1 classification is production of doctoral students, especially doctoral students in STEM fields. That's where Louisiana Tech excels. I was asked to think about what institution might be an aspirational peer of Louisiana Tech. And I said, I don't know that there's a single institution that you want to emulate, but I think you can look at the enterprise work that's going on at Georgia Tech. And I think you can look at some of the undergraduate scholarship that occurs maybe at Colorado School of Mines or New Jersey Institute of Technology. I think you can look at putting research as a strategic imperative and look down in Lafayette at the amazing work at UL Lafayette and the way that they have driven the research enterprise in that area. But I mentioned resources, and that's one that I'm going to be looking to stakeholders for. This institution needs a sizable, unrestricted endowment. We're no longer going to be funded by the state of Louisiana at a sufficient level to deliver our product, to deliver education, develop students at scale. It's not going to happen. So we have to develop the private resources that will give us those recurring funds that we can invest in faculty, we can invest in research, we can invest in facilities, and that will elevate that institution going forward. One of the great things about Louisiana Tech is its foundation. I'm talking about metaphorical foundation, not the Tech Foundation itself. It's bedrock. They've had 3 presidents since 1962. The stability that's given that institution has allowed it to plow new ground, starting biomedical engineering, micro manufacturing, now cyber engineering, and then. And because you have that sound foundation, there's no limit to how high you can grow. And so that's why I'm salivating at this opportunity.
Any other questions from our board members? Dr. Clark?
Triggered by your passing when you were describing the collaboration opportunities on the corridor and can you elaborate a little bit in terms of what you're seeing or some of these collaboration opportunities?
So I think there's collaboration opportunities in the research space, especially when you look at an institution that might have a level of expertise. You might have an institution that has undergraduate scholars that want to participate in research. I think there's some opportunities for us to share that expertise. When you look to the eastern side of the state, where ULM has really carved out a niche in allied health programming, and there are opportunities for pre-professional programming there. There's an opportunity for research, maybe in one of the hard sciences, to impact the work that's going on in the delivery of practical care, for instance. I think there's a number of those opportunities there. When it comes to program creation, we're now all doing 3-year academic programming plans going forward. Maybe there's opportunities for some of that planning to be done in concert with each other, so that we're not duplicating efforts unnecessarily. We're doing those things in which we have expertise and bringing them to scale. Certainly, not all duplication is anathema, but ensuring that we're maximizing the use of the resources to have our impact at scale is going to be important. Starts with at the top. I think back to I had an idea in 2010 to have a 2+2 degree program from Bossier Parish Community College, Louisiana Tech in engineering. When I brought that idea up, one of the first people I brought it to was Les Geis, who was a vice president at the time. And I was afraid he was going to tell me I was crazy. And he says, you know, you're going to have to teach 4 semesters of calculus at a community college to get this done. I said, yes. How hard could that be? Well, we happen to have a Sachs accredited faculty member, Dr. Miles Hitchcock, who said, yeah, I'll take it on. I remember the first student that finished differential equations was Emily Jones. And she graduated with an Associate of Arts in Engineering. Now, it took forever to get us through the bureaucracy here in Baton Rouge because they said there's no way that you're going to have students of that caliber. Well, she graduated. She went to Tech. She graduated in 2 years. She just put a Facebook post up. She's in Hong Kong as the lead civil engineer on a massive industrial project over there. And the smile on her face as she's standing on this broken ground told me everything I need to know. If you put challenging programs and provide access to them for students, they can come from multiple areas and succeed. But it took an institution that was willing to collaborate on an idea that had been untested, unproven, and made it successful. And so those are the kind of collaborations I'd love to do. Those outside the box, you know, wild ideas that actually come to fruition and actually serve a purpose.
I appreciate your acknowledgement and recognition of the future path for collaboration.
Yes, sir. Lots of opportunity there.
Any other questions, board members? Okay, if not, and if we don't have any other comments or questions, I'll go ahead and close our public forum. And we can move right into our special meeting unless someone needs a break. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and call our special meeting to order. Good evening again. I now call to order today's special meeting of the Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System. As a courtesy to all, I ask that you please turn off your electronic devices if you've not already done so. Ms. Carroll, would you please call the roll for our meeting?
Mr. Busada, Dr. Clark,
Here.
Dr. Condos,
Here.
Mr. Davison,
Here.
Ms. Donahoe,
Present.
Ms. Leatherman,
Present.
Mr. Perkins,
Here.
Mr. Peterson, Ms. Pierre,
Present.
Mr. Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Romero,
Here.
Ms. Russell, Mr. Salter, Mr. Stevens,
Here.
Ms. Stokes, Ms. Willis. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Carol. As I mentioned in our public forum, today's special meeting is called in reference to the announcement by Dr. Les Geis that he is retiring as president of Louisiana Tech University, effective December 31st, 2023. Subsequent to that announcement, Dr. James B. Henderson announced his interest in the presidency of Louisiana Tech. Louisiana law, specifically revised statute 173303, requires the governing boards of public universities to appoint presidents to those universities, taking into consideration the recommendation of the president or CEO of the system. Our bylaws does not outline a procedure for the appointment of these presidents. Our board rules do outline a process. However, that process requires significant involvement of the system president. Obviously, Dr. Henderson's participation in the process would be a conflict of interest if he were also a candidate in that process. Realizing that the outlined search process could not be used, the board at a special meeting on October 9th, 2023, voted to suspend Board Rule Part 2, Chapter 3, Faculty and Staff, Section 2, Personnel Action. The board also voted to invite Dr. Henderson to interview for the position. We now welcome Dr. Henderson for the public portion of that interview. He will share an opening statement, followed by public interview questions by our board members. Following the questions, we will retire to executive session. Dr. Henderson, would you please proceed with your statement and welcome.
Well, certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't want to duplicate or contradict anything I said earlier. But as you know, this institution has a deep affiliation with my family going back 82 years when my father came from Jennings, Louisiana with a friend to go meet Joe Ia and was offered a scholarship to play football at Louisiana Tech. His parents wanted him to go to TCU. He wanted to go play shortstop for the Yankees, and Joe Ia beat both his parents and the Yankees, which tells you the influence of this giant. Dad played for 2 years, and then he and about 22 of his teammates went to their coach in the spring of 1943 and said, "Coach, we can't stay. We have to go overseas." And Joe said, creating the first military-friendly school in the nation, in my opinion, said, "I'm going to hold your scholarships and I'm going to write to you every month." In the fall of 1946, all 22 of those guys came back, some from places like Nagasaki and Saipan and Okinawa. They all finished their careers at Louisiana Tech. My dad sent every one of his athletes that he could that had collegiate opportunities to Tech because he wanted them to be part of that family, including A.L. Williams, who went on to coach not only at Northwestern State, but also at Louisiana Tech. I got a text the other day from a guy named Dr. James Pruitt, who had led the nursing college at University of Tennessee. Back when my dad knew him, he was Jimmy Pruitt, and it's the reason my name is James. He was on my dad's 1963 state championship basketball team and then roomed with a guy named Leon Barmore at Louisiana Tech. Leon was part of the force with Sonia Hogue to create the Lady Texters, the greatest basketball program in the history of women's basketball. Gino Ariama, I'll call you later, but in my opinion, the Lady Texters were there. Leon had called Jimmy just to tell him, "Did you know Clem's son might be the president at Tech?" and how excited they were. And Jimmy texted me that, and what just an amazing connection it is that spans generations. That Tech family is passionate about Tech. Every summer, my dad's teammates that played in the 40s and 50s would get together for a program. And because I was a late child, I got to go. And I got to hang out with Mike Reed and with Racer Halstead and even Coach Mize and Bobby I.A. In fact, my son Alex thinks Bobby I.A. is his uncle. It is such a close family that this institution has become part of our lives. That's the personal side of this. The professional side of this is about an institution that has infinite potential to elevate not just its region, not just the city of Ruston, with whom it enjoys one of the most robust town-gown relationships that exist anywhere in the country, but to have global impact. It's got faculty that are serious about their work, serious about scholarships, serious about research. It has staff that is ever loyal to their institution, and it has a student body that is second to none. That combination of history, of existing resources, and potential is such an intriguing prospect to me as a leader. It's why we're in this business. It is truly a calling. Now, there are some short-term challenges at this institution. There are some financial challenges that exist. And that's okay, because short-term challenges are going to come. They're going to face every one of our institutions. I've dealt with those. When I arrived at Bossier Parish Community College, an institution that already had a structural operating deficit, they took their first of 8 consecutive budget cuts. And we found ways to deal with that financially, even though we put audacious goals out to grow that institution so that it was serving its regional economy at the level that it should be serving it. And we grew that institution, doubled its enrollment while we're dealing with these resource restrictions. We're always going to be in a scarcity environment in Louisiana. That's just the nature of the prioritization of funding for higher education. But being able to rise above that, controlling our destiny and ensuring that we're providing a pathway for students to come to us and then control their own individual social determination, economic determination, and prepare them to be contributors to their communities, be successful in career. That's what drives me. And so, members of the board, I just appreciate your consideration today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions from you.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. So at this time, I would open up to any board members who may have questions for Dr. Henderson. No questions? Okay. All right. Well, this item does require the board to meet in executive session. The Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System may meet in executive session to discuss personnel matters under the provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 42:17. While in executive session, the board may not make any motions or take any votes. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session? Moved by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Basada. Carol, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Busada. Dr. Clark.
Yes.
Dr. Condos.
Yes.
Mr. Davison.
Yes.
Ms. Donahoe. Ms. Leatherman. Mr. Perkins. Mr. Peterson. Ms. Pierre.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson. Mr. Romero.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
And Ms. Willis.
Yes.
The motion passed.
Thank you, Carol. The board will now adjourn to room 1-165. The Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System met in executive session to discuss the Louisiana Tech presidential transition. Is there a motion to reconvene in open session? Moved by Ms. Donahoe, second by Mr. Peterson. Ms. Carroll, do we need a roll call? No.
Come back out of it.
Yes, we do. Okay, Ms. Carroll.
Mr. Busada. Dr. Clark.
Yes.
Dr. Condos.
Yes.
Mr. Davison,
Yes.
Ms. Donahoe,
Yes.
Ms. Leatherman.
Yes.
Mr. Perkins.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson, Ms. Pierre,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yeah.
Mr. Romero,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
And Ms. Willis.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you, Ms. Carroll. Is there a motion on item G, the Louisiana Tech University President appointment?
Yes. I have a motion that this board appoint Dr. James B. Henderson to be the next president of Louisiana Tech University.
I second.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second to appoint Dr. James B. Henderson, President of Louisiana Tech University. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? I'm sorry, roll call vote?
I think a roll, Madam Chair, I think a roll call vote would be.
In order. Ms. Carroll, would you please do a roll call vote?
Mr. Busada, Dr. Clark,
Yes.
Dr. Condos,
Yes.
Mr. Davison,
Yes.
Ms. Donahoe.
Yes.
Ms. Leatherman,
Yes.
Mr. Perkins,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Ms. Pierre,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson, Mr. Romero.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens
Yes.
and Ms. Willis.
Yes.
It's 13 yay.
Thank you. I think that is a vote of the board. New word, unanimous. I'm sorry, unanimous vote of the board. So at this time, I'd like to introduce the new president of Louisiana Tech University, Dr. James B. Henderson, and invite him to make comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members, for your support. These last 7 years have been the best years of my professional career, working with you, working with the 9 university presidents in our system, working with what I think is the greatest staff I could ever have assembled at the UL System office. I've enjoyed that work immensely. This system is primed for future success, continued growth, and continued development of systemic work. But I have to tell you, I am more excited than I could possibly explain to go back to the work I love at a university, especially a university with the history, the legacy, and more importantly, the potential of Louisiana Tech. Working with the faculty and staff at that institution to realize its mission at a scale and at a level never before seen, building on the foundation of my dear friend, Les Geis, and as he enters his retirement, developing the economy of the I-20 corridor, working in partnership with my friends. It's going to be the work of a career, and I could not be more excited to do it. Again, I thank you very much for your support. Go Bulldogs.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. We all know that choosing university presidents is the most important work that we do. The board and member institutions are very familiar with Dr. Henderson's leadership. He has worked for this board, as he mentioned, for 7 years, guiding our institutions through challenging times of a global pandemic and numerous natural disasters, all while elevating our system's position through the state and nationally. Dr. Henderson's professional credentials and connection to Louisiana Tech evident that he is qualified to lead Louisiana Tech. We are excited to continue to work with you in this capacity and expect great things along the I-20 corridor and at Louisiana Tech. Thank you. Does any member of the board have any other comments at this time?
Madam Chair, I have a motion to make.
Yes, sir.
Members, I make a motion to authorize the board chair, Liz Pierre, and two designees to negotiate a contract in terms of employment with Dr. Jim Henderson to be the president of Louisiana Tech University.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Stevens and second by Ms. Donahoe. Are there any questions, concerns, discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Thank you. At this time, we'll move down to item H, which is discussion and deliberation regarding the University of Louisiana System President. With the appointment of Dr. Jim Henderson as president of Louisiana Tech University, we will be left with a vacancy at the system level. This item will require the board to meet in executive session. The Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System may meet in executive session to discuss personnel matters under the provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 42:17. While in executive session, the board may not make any motions or take any votes. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session? Move Ms. Donahoe, second by Mr. Robinson. Thank you. Ms. Carroll, a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Busada, Dr. Clark,
Yes.
Dr. Condos,
Yes.
Mr. Davison,
Yes.
Ms. Donahoe,
Yes.
Ms. Leatherman,
Yes.
Mr. Perkins,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson, Ms. Pierre,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Romero,
Yes.
Mr. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Willis,
Yes.
the motion passes.
Thank you. The board will retire to room 1-165. The Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System met in executive session to discuss the University of Louisiana System President appointment and related actions. Is there a motion to reconvene in open session? Moved by Mr. Perkins, second by Mr. Condos. Ms. Carroll, a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Busada. Dr. Clark. Dr. Condos.
Yes.
Mr. Davison.
Yes.
Ms. Donahoe. Mr. Perkins.
Yeah.
Mr. Peterson.
Yeah.
Ms. Pierre.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Romero.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Willis. Oh, okay. That passes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carroll. Is there a motion on item H, University of Louisiana System President appointment?
Well, wait for Bailey.
I'm
Madam
sorry.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I have a motion. I move that the Board of Supervisors for the Louisiana System name Rick Gallo, President and Chief Executive Officer, University of Louisiana System, and that the Chair of the Board be authorized to negotiate terms of that employment.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Vasada. Ms. Carroll, I think we need a roll call vote.
Mr. Barry Busada. Dr. Jimmy Clark.
Yes.
Dr. John Condos. Mr. Davison.
Yes.
Ms. Lola Donahoe. Ms. Joe Leatherman.
Yes.
Mr. Al Perkins.
Yes.
Mr. Dan Peterson. Ms. Elizabeth Pierre.
Yes.
Mr. Virgil Robinson. Mr. Mark Romero.
Yes.
Mr. Brad Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Bailey Willis.
Yes.
It's 13 yes.
Thank you, and unanimous decision. At this time, I'd like to introduce the new president of the University of Louisiana System, Rick Gallo. President Gallo, we'd invite you to table to make comments if you would like.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I feel very grateful right now that you have bestowed this incredible honor and responsibility on Christy and I to step into some pretty big shoes. And so I want to thank Dr. Henderson as well for being such an incredible support system for me over the last 7 years. And I just want you to know I'm grateful for this opportunity and certainly look forward to serving this board, the 80,000 plus students across 9 institutions in the University of Louisiana System. I'm grateful, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of say something. I know over the past 7 years that you've served as president of Grambling State University, you've demonstrated a deep commitment to student success, to financial stewardship, and to academic excellence during that time. You prioritized strategic growth, fostered innovation, and actively engaged stakeholders, resulting in enrollment growth and retention of students there at Grambling. In addition to the impressive work you've done at Grambling, we know that your background as a state representative and a senator will give you a profound understanding of the legislative process, policy development, and efficient advocacy that will serve our 9 universities, their faculty, staff, and student very well. For those reasons, I believe you are an excellent choice to lead the University of Louisiana System, and I congratulate you at this time. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Any comments from anyone else on the board?
Congratulations.
President Gallo, in entering this position, you are inheriting a very high performing board, and thanks to the leadership of Dr. Jim Henderson, it has placed it in a very high level for you to be able to come in and bring your talents to the table to see what we can do to move the system in the future. So we look forward to working with you. I think our board couldn't be in any better hands and ready to be under your leadership. And we're all here to be able to help you become successful in this role.
Thank you again, and thank you, board members. If there is no other business to come before the board at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Stevens.